that's about. Actually, who's, okay. All right, Bill.
Okay, so again, this was all brought about because of the new rules and regs brought down from NAR. A lot of us think that it's a restraint of fair trade, but we wanted to do a disclaimer on the front of this. Just like with the COVID, everybody's got their own belief system and their own opinions, and that's great. So basically what we're saying is we don't claim to be experts or the authority, and we are not giving any legal advice. We are simply expressing our opinions and views. See your manager, your broker for any further advice. These are simply our opinions and feelings, as it doesn't appear that anyone has really got a handle on these new rules yet. There's a lot of discrepancy going on in it, and there's actually a lawsuit filed against NAR by a couple large brokerage firms. One of them is up in San Francisco. A general opinion is it's a restraint of fair trade, and we're just going to be talking about opinions and what we feel today and your opinions and how you feel, and it's just kind of an exploratory type of thing for today. So we aren't giving you legal advice. We aren't telling you what to do or not to do. That's up to you. That's up to your broker and your manager. So hopefully everybody's clear on that. And we don't want to get into any arguments. As we said, everybody's got their right to their own opinion and their own beliefs. So keep it friendly. Thank you.
That was perfect. All right, I'm getting a little distracted by text messages. All right, so yeah, so we're here to talk about the clear cooperation laws. I know that people had reached out to me a lot in the group, concerned because they don't want to break any of the new rules, and all the new rules are a little bit confusing, I think. They want to see, you know, if they had a listing that's about to come on the market, how much they can talk about it, what they could disclose, et cetera, et cetera. And as well as the buyer wants and needs. I think that people had questions on that. So I guess we could just talk about briefly, because Bill and Kai and I have been on a couple of Zoom calls, you know, directly related to this and what the new laws are, what registered status is coming soon, and basically have a generalized understanding of what those rules are. So I guess I'll just go through those. As far as registered status, that's a signed listing agreement. And you, Bill and Kai, please, you can interject if you need to. And basically, once you're registered status, that would be uploaded in the MLS, and then, but no other agent in the MLS can see that listing. You can talk about it in your brokerage and with your colleagues in your brokerage, and you can show it with the AD form. If you have a signed AD, you can actually show that property in registered status. And there's no days on market with that. Coming soon status, I'll just go through it if you guys want to correct me anyway. Coming soon is signed listing agreement, obviously. And that is available for all agents to see on the MLS, including the public, if they were, you know, had if you had them under that search, an automatic search. At that point in the group, like in Who's Got Pockets, you could say, "Hey guys, I have a coming soon," because it's in the CRLMS, and that would be a great platform to kind of push that coming soon status as well, because I think a lot of agents aren't really used to using it yet, so it's a good way to remind them to, hey, you know, go check that out. But the caveat, or the weird kind of thing about coming soon, is that you cannot show the property. So that was kind of interesting, I thought. And Kai or Bill, do you remember if there's days on market with coming soon? I don't think there is days on market.
No
right?
days on market, because the property cannot be shown.
Okay, so that's my understanding. Then we all know what active status is. So I think a big question in the group is, well, what, you know, Bill, you always bring up this great example about, what if my neighbor and I are talking and, you know, he's pondering, you know, selling his home, but he doesn't want to sign a listing agreement and wants me to bring him a buyer. Like, what do we do? Like, are our hands tied? Like, you know, you know, I guess we could talk to people in our brokerage, but we're limited by only that measure. And this is where Who's Got Pockets comes in so wonderfully, is that we're able to have that to be able to help facilitate the sale and help our clients ultimately. So guys, who wants to talk about that, Bill, since that was always your...
One of the things that I was reading, we'll back up just a little bit. Hopefully everybody on this call has gone on to see our MLS, and under the clear cooperation guidelines, you've tapped on registered coming soon. Really read through that to try and get an understanding of it, because like we said earlier, even some of the people in the powers to be don't really seem to have a handle on this. It's new for everybody. But one thing that jumped out at me looking at the coming soon today is that you can have an offer presented on it and accepted. And if you do, then you have to enter that property into the MLS within 24 hours, and it can never go back into a coming soon status again.
Mm-hmm.
So again, just to kind of clear the air, the three of us, Kai and Liz and myself, have had many discussions on this, and we don't always agree on the other person's opinion. Nobody really knows what's right until we get to the point where somebody is getting reprimanded. There's also a place I noticed on the Clear Cooperation notes this morning where you can tattle on somebody. If you see somebody marketing the property that's not on the MLS yet, it asks you, what's the property address, who's the brokerage, who's the agent, when did you first see it advertised? So there's going to be a lot of people out there with their eyes on this, but again, nobody really knows yet all the rules. And so in the beginning, they're going to send out warnings. And I'm sure there'll be plenty of people testing the system. That's normal, and I think that's acceptable because we've got to get things defined. But again, you guys have to kind of form your own opinion on what's right and what you can do and what you can't do, because we don't want to tell you something that's going to get you in trouble. So it's okay to disagree.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's, oh, sorry, go ahead, Kai.
So I think there might be important to kind of delineate a couple of different paradigms. One is somewhat of what we're talking about is anything that's actually a written listing, right? So what do you do with the written listing? Well, if you don't want it to be shown, maybe they're rehabbing it. My understanding is the new category instead of SELM is going to be registered. I don't think registered's up and running yet. I think that's going to be here in the next couple of weeks from what I understand. So we're still relegated to use the SELM for now. But I think the registered status is going to take over the SELM status. And that's for any property that you want to keep off the market, maybe even definitely, or from some period of time for a reason like rehabbing it. Then when you want to go to a marketing stage, you have two categories. You have either coming soon or you have fully active. I think the coming soon status is for those properties that maybe you're just finishing some touches up, or you know, maybe waiting for staging to be done, something like that. That you want to talk about the property, you want to market the property, kind of give people a forward-looking glance, but cannot be shown, right? And then of course everybody knows what the active status is. So that's a whole conversation in its own that's predicated on whether or not you have actually a listing in writing. There's a whole nother segment that's even more confusing, and that is, what if you know about a property that wants to be sold? The owners want to sell it, but you don't actually have anything in writing. You know, the true form of a pocket listing, right? It's confusing as to what to do with that. You don't have anything in writing. You cannot put it in the MLS under any of the categories. Are you able to talk about it? Are you free to talk about it? Are you, you know, some comparisons are properties that maybe would go under a one-party show eventually. Or how about FSBOs? FSBOs is that dynamic. You're free to show a FSBO and sell it ultimately.
Right.
So I think there's some key points that aren't necessarily being addressed in the bigger, broader scope that are leaving us somewhat confused, and what's in place doesn't really address it in my opinion. I'm not hearing, unless they're completely outlawing any kind of unwritten agreement at all, like you cannot talk about a property unless you have a written agreement. I don't know. Anybody who's willing to jump on the chat and kind of add your points, and we'll talk about whatever you put there. So I'm complete.
Okay, I think what I've seen in the group is a lot of people are wondering what they can post now. I think that's just a big burning question. You know, buyer wants and needs. In my opinion, I think that that's fine. I think that you could. I mean, that's great. You say, hey, this is what I have a buyer for. If anyone has anything, let me know. You know, contact me personally. I mean, I think at that point it's just two agents working together. I mean, guys, I think that's where that's the big gray area with all these new rules. It's like, is it, I mean, are they, like I was talking about yesterday, kind of like a freedom of speech thing. Like, I know it's going a little too far there, but it's like, well, I mean, why are they stopping us from communicating with our colleagues in the industry, regardless of brokerage? And, you know, if maybe Bill, if you want to talk about that at all, or Kai.
Well, we had a lengthy kind of a heated discussion between the three of us yesterday, and there's some differences of opinions on this. But let's say I've got a neighbor and their name is Joan, and Joan says, hey, you know what? We're kind of thinking about moving to Texas. We really don't want to put the home on the market. We don't want to sign. We don't want to list it per se and whatever. But if you, I know you're in real estate, if you hear of somebody that might be interested in something like our home, you know, we'd be willing to show it, etc. So I don't have a listing contract signed. Is it illegal for DRE to tell another agent about that? I don't
Not
believe it.
DRE.
Is it illegal? Is it against NAR, CAR, and CRMLS rules to tell somebody about that? I don't have a listing contract signed or anything else. This again, I don't want you to take this to the bank, but in my opinion, it's hearsay. We're just talking about something. There's nothing legal there. There's no contract. Now, if I get a signed contract, that's a whole different ball game. But
Right.
I personally don't believe that we can be restricted from talking about things. That's my personal belief.
Well, and Bill, I'll add on to what you just said. The whole concept of a single party show is exactly that. There is no contract in place until there's a meeting of the minds between buyer and seller about what the property is, and there's enough interest on the buyer side. This happens obviously between agents mostly, but there's a conversation that has to happen to be able to gather enough information to be able to even do a single party show. The
Right.
buyer's agent's not going to give out names of their buyers. Just, oh yeah, any property you find, here's my buyer's name. So they have to know enough about the property to say, yeah, there's an interest with these particular clients. And then they have to be trusting enough to give over the buyer's name so that you can get a one-party show signed. So I think there's a dynamic in place that does already allow for a conversation about a property to a buyer before there's a contract signed.
Yeah, and that form also explains the MLS and that they're opting out, you know, so they're understanding, all parties are understanding what's going on. So
Yeah, Liz, there's a couple questions that popped up on the chat. Can I address them real quick?
yes, please do.
All right, so one says, so when does the 24-hour enter in the MLS actually apply? So we're not experts, right? We've disclosed that. And I've heard different answers from the powers that be that they've said. So I think generally the concept is anytime you move from one category to another, let's say restricted, but now all of a sudden you're telling somebody outside your brokerage, I think you have to move to either coming soon or to active. I think that's the way the rule's set up. If you're in coming soon and you've shown the property, I think that breaks the coming soon rule, and then you got to move it to active. So it all depends on what category you're placing it in first, and then did you break any of those rules moving it to the next category?
Let me interject something there if I could.
Yeah.
Because I don't know all the people on this call. I've been in the business 44 years. I managed for 34 years. I've had to handle a lot of issues. You have to look at something like this. You know, for the newer people, you may find it astonishing to know that you could write a legal contract on a paper towel. It doesn't have to be an RPA. It doesn't have to be in a CAR form. Okay, it needs to be enforceable. It needs to be in writing. But what the question on here that I'm reading is is when does it need to be put in the MLS? It need any status needs to be put into the MLS within 48 hours. 24 hours is fine, but within from a signing of a contract.
Mhm.
So it doesn't matter if you're putting in registered, coming soon, or active. It needs, once you've got a signed contract, it needs to be entered into the MLS in one of those statuses.
Yes, Bill, I think this question though addresses the 24-hour rule, the one that comes with the new clear cooperation rule. I think that's what the question is specifically about. When does the 24-hour kick in? And I think the answer to that is if you break any of the underlying rules of the category you started with.
Well, I think it's just from the first point of like public contact to the listing, right? If you go and you're advertising Who's Got Pockets, if you could say, hey everyone, I've got something coming up. Here's all the stats on the property. You've got your signed listing agreement. And then within 24 hours, enter it into the MLS, right? I mean, that's how they can cover their butt, if you will. If they want to know specifically, because I think people are here because they really want to know what they can use Who's Got Pockets for. I think they like, how can we use it and protect each other? I think we have a very great group of agents in that group. I think nobody snitches or anything like that. Not that we would want to break rules, but I think just for people, if you want to put it in to Who's Got Pockets 24-hour in advance and tell everybody all about it, that's 24 hours, right? That they've got a little extra advertising time.
Well, Liz, I'm gonna broaden that a little bit. I actually think that Who's Got Pockets is perfectly positioned to handle coming soons.
Well, I was going to get into that too. And coming soon is a great thing too, but they can't show it
Correct
to the other agent, but they can converse, talk all they want, and that can go into the group, and that's fine. My only thing about the group was just the active listing thing. Let's not inundate the group with active listings, because we can all go to the MLS, we can all go to Zillow, for goodness sake, and find an active listing. So that was the whole point of Who's Got Pockets, was to have a whole separate kind of entity that deals only in those properties. And then buyer needs and wants. And as far as the buyer needs and wants go, I would say post away. You have a buyer need or want, and I say that the agent contact whoever has a buyer that would match, or I'm sorry, a listing that would match what that buyer need or want is. I would say have that agent contact you directly. You talk to the agent, you vet the agent, you have a conversation. You get everything in order so that you can protect yourself and that listing, right? So someone doesn't come in and try to steal it from underneath you,
And another thing that came up, I think a question was, why was this rule brought about? What brought it about?
Great question.
Our personal opinion, okay, is because there was pressure put on by companies like Zillow, et cetera, to NAR in that, because when you're doing pockets, it's not going to Zillow, it's not going on the MLS.
Right.
We feel that Zillow put a lot of pressure on it, just like with the you can't use the information from the MLS to go after expireds and cancel. We can't do that, right? It's a fine. But they can sell it to a third-party company.
Mm-hmm.
Then you can buy it from that third-party company, and now you didn't get it from the MLS. Do you tell me who that benefits? Doesn't benefit us. They're taking our information from us that we can't use. So anyway,
and selling it.
That's my little
That's where I think we get a little heated on it, because it's frustrating, because they're limiting our ability to represent our clients, to conduct business the way that we feel is best for our clients and for ourselves. So it's a tough pill to swallow, I think, for everyone. And I think on top of it, I think they're overreaching. I mean, in my opinion, they're overreaching rules, and I think they're going to have a hard time enforcing them because I think there's a ton of confusion. And I think you're right. I think that there is downward pressure from companies like Zillow. And
there's already a lawsuit been filed too, right?
Well, we have the lawsuit, and I'm all for it. let me jump on board that, because I mean, it's overreaching completely.
And Bill, the balance of that question you started with, it says, does it restrict our ability to market, sell properties? That's going to be somewhat of an individual interpretation. The obvious answer is, when you're dealing with somebody that you don't have an actual listing, it's a true pocket, and you can't, let's say they say you can't talk about it. You have to have everything in writing. Well, that would be a restriction, right?
I don't know, and you and I had talked about this yesterday. I don't know whose concept it is that everything has to be in writing. I mean, I totally disagree with it. It's not against the law. Okay. If I'm not a broker, I'm not a realtor, and I want to sell my house, and you come to me and you want to buy it, and you're not a broker or an agent, and we do everything verbally and it closes,
Mm-hmm.
no harm, no foul. And it would be the exact same thing, in my opinion, if that was happening between brokers. And Kai came to me and said, hey, I've got somebody that's interested in something. Now, it'd be stupid on my part not to get something signed by a potential seller, but there's nothing illegal, in my opinion, about everything being done verbal. It certainly is a little scary. We could be, hosed, but it doesn't have to be in writing if everybody agrees.
Right.
And it could close escrow, and you could put it in the MLS for
Purpose.
for just for stats only, or you could never put it in the MLS. And then I don't think you're in violation of anything, certainly not DRE rules. Now, I know NAR, CAR, CRMLS, everybody, they want everything running through them.
Right.
Doesn't work that way in the investment side of it, industrial investment side of it. They don't do that kind of stuff. So there's nothing illegal with DRE. I think it's something everybody needs to understand. There's a difference between rules,
Right.
laws.
Well, NAR is an association. So we're buying into membership with NAR. It's not the DRE. They're governed by the DRE as well. NAR just makes their own rules up, right? But the thing is, it's just one big company, NAR. It's Realtor, you know what I mean? If you want that designation, if you want access to the MLS, if you want access to all these things, there's only one real way to go about it as an agent, right? That's all we kind of ever knew or know. I think a lot of new agents don't understand that, but we need NAR.
And
If
Liz,
not,
can I,
how do you
Liz,
conduct? Sorry, go ahead.
go ahead,
can
Kai.
I expand on that a little bit, Liz?
Yeah.
All right, so I think Liz brings up a great point, and that is sometimes we get confused as to whose rules we're playing by. Ultimately, our license are governed by the DRE, separate from NAR, separate from CAR, separate from our board.
Right.
The DRE has rules you must abide by. Us participating, subscribing to our board, therefore CAR, therefore NAR, they've added a layer on top of the DRE rules for us to abide by. Some of the rules they have are illegal according to them, but not at all illegal according to DRE. So it becomes a question mark of why are the rules there? Why are there restrictions, right? So just know that there's a difference, right, between
Well, we know
DRE.
why. We know why. I mean,
Well, I wasn't going to get into it, but go ahead.
follow the money train. Follow the money. But yeah, that's good to know too. Is that the DRE pocket listings are not illegal according to the DRE, the Department of Real Estate. So it is NAR that is imposing that on us. And that's hence the lawsuit, because it is an overreach. And there's some new questions here. Zillow coming soon, listing agents getting fined for displaying a home on Zillow that is not listed as a coming soon on the MLS.
Probably not yet, but they will. NAR threw us a bone with coming soon. If you read the rules in coming soon, it doesn't go to Zillow for 21 days. Then after that, it goes to Zillow. So NAR, and you can have your own belief, but NAR, in our opinion, is bowing down to Zillow and other forms and kind of selling us out. If you go all the way back to the late 70s, when we just had a multiple book, there was no Zillow, there was none of this other stuff. We owned the information. It was ours. It's been sold out.
Mm-hmm.
And Zillow doesn't have to follow our rules. They don't follow our rules. So to answer that question, if you had a listing in coming soon and you're promoting it and displaying it on Zillow, you're in my opinion, you are in, you're in violation of the rules. because it says when it's in coming soon, you can only advertise it to other brokerages. Not Zillow is not one of those. So you'd be in violation, in my opinion.
So
There's,
go ahead, Kai.
sorry, there's a question on here about how much info should we put on who's got pockets. That's going to be a little bit of a tricky question because it's going to really be up to you and how comfortable you feel with whatever status you have the property in. And are you breaking any of the underlying rules? But I'm assuming that if you talk about a property in general, like North Tustin, 4-bedroom, 1,800 square feet coming soon, I think that's perfectly fine. If you're going to put an address there, I think you expose yourself to being investigated and tracked. So you better be following the rules accordingly.
Yeah, I think a general scope of the idea of the property, what it is, and no address and that type of thing. Don't post pictures, just say, I've got this coming up. And then people can direct message you. And then at that point, like I said, vet that agent, find out what their buyer's looking for, and see if it's a match, and then move forward at that point with what you want to do. If you want to do a single party showing. And I think also too, like I said before, is if you're by the book, you don't want to talk about a pocket until you've got that, the RPA or the listing agreement signed. Then you could, throw it into the group 24 hours before you decide to put it on, what is it, coming soon, or any status, I guess, you register it. You have within 24 hours. So once that property is talked about, within 24 hours. So you can use the group to generate a buzz ahead of time. And then, of course, when it is in coming soon status, that's just another platform for you to use to get the word out here, especially in Orange County, because this is like a highly vetted group of agents, 1,500, all kind of active agents in the industry. We're the ones that are really making the deals and putting them together. So it's a great service for that. Someone's saying here about Zillow had their coming soon, and so does Redfin as well. So,
Well, Redfin is a broker. So Redfin's a member of
yeah.
CRMS, so
Okay.
they're obviously going to have it. Zillow shouldn't have it.
So I don't know if you saw it, Stephanie
Well,
Garvey wrote.
Zillow does have some brokerages built. I don't think there's any in this area, but they do have some across the nation.
Okay.
Hey, Liz,
Sure.
it's Hillary.
Oh, hey.
Hi, everybody. Can we go back to a list, not signing a listing in that conversation? And I actually have a call in to a real estate lawyer, but my feeling is, if you meet with, well, I love that example that the gentleman gave, my neighbor next door, okay? And this happens all the time, and maybe we can even make it a little bit broader. If you have a potential seller, and you say to that seller, hey, listen, there are these new rules, et cetera, et cetera. Am I going to list your house? Yes, you are, Hillary. Am I going to list it for $2 million? Yes, you are, Hillary. Okay, we're going to handshake on it. Great. 48 hours before I put it in the MLS, I'm going to have you sign paperwork. So theoretically, the way I look at it, and I'm going to get confirmation, is I don't have a signed listing. I don't have an agreement. Now, could that seller go ahead and hire somebody else? Absolutely. Could that, if I share it with you, Liz, and you want to go directly to that seller because you know my listing isn't signed? Absolutely. If you do something like that as an agent, I can tell you, you'll be blackballed. Nobody's going to want to do business with you. Okay.
Right.
Also, this is my feeling. If my seller's going to screw me, honey, do it right now when I don't have the investment in. So that's an interesting way of vetting out what kind of seller we have. Now, if I am correct that I don't have a viable listing, why can't I go out to your group? Or why can't I start texting? Or why can't I start marketing that property as, oh, by the way, I know of something. So my question is it because I am a licensed real estate agent that I am not allowed to do that?
No.
And since I'm on my little thing here, in regards to Zillow and Redfin, et cetera, our brokerages are giving away their listings. They're giving them away for free.
Our
I
listing.
don't think it gets any dumber than
Yeah,
that.
our listings. We're paying to have our information
Okay,
sold
so-
off.
Okay, so it's our brokerage houses that need to smarten up and not be selling their listings, okay?
Yep.
That's my
Okay,
2
okay,
cents.
guys, hold on. Something very important. Just to be careful. There's a concept called I'm drawing a blank, of course.
You can do it, okay? You
Yeah,
can.
I know. Of course, I take the mic, and I'm. Anyway, long story short, we cannot collectively get together and make any kind of agreement against anybody else. Can't
Oh,
remember the
their
term.
house, or no, not that.
No, I can't
I know
remember the terminology off the top of my head all of a sudden. So
Restraint of fair trade.
no. It's
Collusion.
Well,
it's so close to collusion, right? So
It's
we have to be
antitrust.
antitrust.
yeah,
Thank you. Antitrust. So that we just have to be careful, particularly in a call like this has been recorded, that we cannot come together and vet anybody out or attack anybody as a group with different brokerages. So just make sure that we talk in generalities, okay?
yeah. Absolutely. Well, okay, so then I guess, Hillary, thank you for adding that. I think it just kind of goes back to, I think there's just a lot of gray area, and people are just trying to wrap their head around the new rules, and we all want to be in compliance, and do the best we can so that we don't get fined or anything like that, right? So what can we do in the group, I think, is what was important for people to kind of find out. And like I said before, or Kai, you mentioned, it's great for coming soon status. If you know you're going to put it on the market within 24 hours, use the group to just blast it out there, buyer wants and needs. At that point, you talk to the other agent, you get whatever form in place that you need to protect yourself and your client, and just be smart about stuff, right?
Yeah. So Liz, going
Yeah.
back to the questions, there's a question about unless there's an SELM. The SELM category is something that's in transition. It's actually going to be somewhat mostly going away. CAR has a form, SELF form. So does the board. The board added their own form because the CAR didn't have some language about days on market. So OCAR decided to make their own form that we would have been using to therefore delineate when days on market starts, depending upon what method you choose as far as marketing. That's in transition. The OCAR form is going to be going away. They've talked CAR and the attorneys into adding the verbiage about the days on market. So that's going to be the new form. I think that's ready to go now, but really the registered status is going to be the new way of handling SELMs, because in the registered status, that's where you can put a listing. You're acknowledging that you have a listing in writing, but you're also acknowledging that there's not going to be any marketing to it. It's only going to be for your own clients, your own sphere, and your own brokerage. So I think that's the new SELM concept. It's my understanding that's not up and running yet. I think it's going to be another couple of weeks. So we're a little bit in transition. But yeah, this is kind of along the SLM lines. They're just modifying it.
And Kai, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe in the registered status, there's no public advertising. There's no advertising to other
That's right.
realtors, but you can advertise it within your own brokerage under one broker. In other words, if it's a franchise, it can only be marketed amongst the broker for your office, correct?
Well, yeah, and I'm not an attorney, so understand that I'm not an attorney. Contracts are owned by the brokerage. the salespeople and even broker associates underneath that brokerage do not own the listing. We're all writing contracts on behalf of the brokerage, not the broker, but the brokerage. So if you have, as an example, Keller Williams, they have 3 different brokerages depending upon Laguna Niguel, Lake Forest, or Mission Viejo. Even if it's the same broker, it's the brokerage where really it lies. So
It's the broker, I'll correct you on that. It's the broker of record. So if you've got 3 offices under one broker, you can promote it to all 3 of those offices.
I'm not sure about that. I actually have a hesitation.
That's right.
I am 100%.
Yeah, Bill's right on that one.
100%.
All right.
Bill's right.
I recommend that we investigate that further.
Well, don't you remember when they said, when that came out, that was an advantage for the large brokers because they could do that?
Yeah, as long as it's on the same brokerage.
The same
Yes,
broker
that's my
of
understanding.
Same
Okay.
broker of record.
Okay.
All right. People are talking a lot about Zillow and coming soon, and that listing did pop up in Zillow. So I guess Zillow owns some brokerages, guys, right? Is that what someone said?
Yeah,
here?
yeah. I don't think they're here locally, but across the nation they do own brokerages.
Okay.
And to answer, there's a question on here for Kai. It said, is the SELM or exclusion form going away? Yes, it is. It's going to be sometime, but it'll be in effect until the registered status comes online, which they're saying will be sometime during the summer. So the SELM will be gone.
All right.
One of the things I think worth talking about, and it's a point of contention, and that is that we're being forced, for lack of a better word, to abide by these rules, and that's fine. We subscribe to a service and we have to abide by the rules. My beef, and I got to be careful how I say this, but my beef is, are the other entities vis-a-vis Zillow and the different IDXs, are they being asked to follow by the same rules? You know, Zillow is taking on going after listings themselves. Sorry, I got a trash truck going by. Zillow is taking on going after listings themselves and really kind of vis-a-vis cutting us out of the picture, in my opinion. But why is the board not demanding that they follow the same rules that we have to follow?
Exactly.
Well, and there's a simple answer to that. In most cases, I agree, like you said, Zillow does have some brokerages that they own in certain areas, but Zillow itself is not a member of NAR, CAR, CRLMLS, or OCAR. They don't have to follow the rules. Just like, unless it's recently changed, they've only got 2 status. It's either active or sold. They don't have a coming soon. They don't have a pending. They don't have an active under contract. They don't have to follow the same rules because they don't belong to the associations that we belong to.
No, but my beef is there wouldn't be a Zillow without us.
Oh, I understand that, but
Yeah,
nothing you can do about it. It's there.
it's there.
And you know what, you guys, Zillow is big, and I don't think it's going away. But do you remember last year, all the angst that there was about purple bricks?
Yeah.
Are they here anymore?
No.
Zillow's not going away.
Yeah.
You just have to figure out a different way, which myself and my team have done, to work expireds and cancels. You're just going to have to figure out a different way of doing this. And again, my opinion, and only my opinion, is if I'm promoting somebody that's thinking about selling and I do not have a signed contract, I don't think there's anything that precludes me from doing that. NAR would rather I don't. I understand that. But I don't think that they can do a doggone thing about it. I don't think, because I don't have a contract.
Exactly.
And
I agree.
And as we know, the example that Hillary gave a little while ago about shame on your seller, that happened to somebody that we know on a rather large transaction. And they were sharing information with another agent. They didn't have a listing contract signed. And guess what? That other agent went directly to the sellers and was putting together a deal. You know?
And she's also been blacklisted too.
But not totally from everybody. I mean, I would bet you that probably 99% of the people on this call don't know who that is.
Right.
Not at liberty to say, but karma will eventually bite you in the rear end.
Well, and I think that you're actually kind of pointing out a great facet of who's got pockets. I mean, we're in this to work together. We're generally different brokerages, but who's got pockets actually kind of pulls us together and creates a unique group of professionals that want to do things right, want to help each other get business, gain business, do business. So I really applaud Liz. I mean, this has been an 8-year-long journey for her on this, and here we are today, 8 years later with some rule changes. So it's a benefit to be part of the group. And quite frankly, one of the things we could do is turn it also into, not only, but also into a way of sharing ideas. Let's say someone gets in trouble, gets a letter, share it with us. Let's talk about it. Let's see what's actually happening, right? We don't want to find out singularly what's going on. Let's create the group also to be a resource for each other. Liz, I hope you're okay with that.
Yeah, I think it's kind of evolved. I think, since all this came about, more and more people, I think, want to have a place where they can be vocal about it. And, when there's numbers, there's power. And, we can sit here on our own and just kind of like, be upset about it. Or I think it's been a great way to just be able to understand that we're not the only one feeling this, and it feels wrong. Doesn't feel right. It feels overreaching what NAR is doing. And I think the more and more we talk about it, the more and more people are kind of coming out of the woodwork and saying, wait a minute, light bulbs are turning on, and they're understanding how it works, and they're diving into, what's right, what's wrong, and what we should do to talk about it, get the word out. Maybe the powers that be, maybe they'll hear about this. Maybe they'll say, hey, you know what? Let's question it too. Let's talk to NAR. People are upset about this. We don't want to ostracize our members. They're our lifeblood. I mean.
Hey, Liz, I'm just seeing a post that's actually concerning to me, a chat post. It says, Zillow had my coming soon. That's a problem.
Well, that's why I was bringing up earlier. That's why I kept asking, because a few people have mentioned that they're saying that Zillow has a coming soon. So
I think
they're not supposed to, right?
I think the board needs to step up and vet that out, because if we do have a listing and coming soon status, and Zillow grabs that listing, that's against the rules.
But you're assuming that that's how they got it. You brought up a point a while back. Zillow does have some regular brokerages that they own, so they probably got it from that. It doesn't mean that anybody did anything wrong. Zillow might be grabbing it from one of their other brokerage houses.
Very true, Bill. But remember, the rule is that if anybody in a coming soon status or a registered status, if the registered status specifically for a second, if anybody advertises, even the owner, it breaks the rule. So if Zillow is breaking our rule that we agreed to, putting coming soon status, but doesn't go to IDX, if Zillow is breaking that, I think the heat needs to come down on them.
Well, that would take NAR to figure out where that leak came from, because it's got to be a brokerage that somehow is putting it in there. For all I know, it could be a rogue agent that's on our conversation today, and they put it in Zillow. I don't know.
Yeah,
but
I think that needs to be investigated.
Let me go, and that would be an NAR fight, but let me go back to something just real quick. There was a question a while ago about how big is the lawsuit, who's involved in it, can more people join, etc. I've got the information on my phone, but if you just Google it, lawsuit against NAR, if you Google it, you'll see all the information. The initial one was a big brokerage up in San Francisco, and I'm sure anybody else could join the lawsuit. I don't know what the cost would be, but the reservation is, okay, do you want to go sue in your own association? And a lot of people would shy away from that. I would imagine if you went to your broker of record and said, hey, let's join the lawsuit, I would think that the average response would be, you know what, let's just play it out and see what happens. Because nobody wants to sue their own. There's been lots of talk about starting our own MLS, starting our own this, starting doing that. Man, the amount of money it would take, the amount of hours, the time, etc. It's like, what's the point? Just pick out another way to skin the cat.
Well, yeah, I agree with you. I mean, that's the thing. It's like there's just one resource for us. That's NAR. That's the CRMLS. You know, that's one resource, and it's a monopoly, is what I kind of call it, because we don't really have any other options. You know, we could be just a real estate agent, but we're not going to have the platforms or be able to get the listing out there as much as, you know, we could be able to if we could advertise on the MLS and in pocket listing groups or whatever type of advertising we choose is best for our clients, and our clients get to choose what's best for them. You know, what if our client says, I don't want to be on the MLS? Then what?
Well, and there's some certainly criteria, types of people that would be the case. Actors, actresses, famous people, maybe people that don't want their neighbors to know. So there's certainly viable reasons to why to not have everybody in the world, literally everybody in the world, know about a property being sold.
Right. So where do we go then? If we have these rules and my client says to me they're not famous, they just don't want everyone on the street knowing that they're selling, they want their privacy. How are we able to do that now? How can we, you know, unless I'm talking to everyone just in my brokerage, then people talk about fair housing laws. It's like, well, how is that fair housing laws if it's just our individual brokerage, right? So how do we address that?
There's another comment on here that says, and I'm assuming they're talking about this lawsuit or going after the coming soon on Zillow. It says it needs to be addressed with CRMLS, not NAR. Not necessarily, because it could be down in Sandy Core. It could be to another MLS in the United States that's a member also, that their brokerage is a member of NAR. Okay, those leaks could be coming from any MLS member. It doesn't necessarily have to be a CRMLS. So my opinion is that it has to be addressed by NAR, not even CAR. It has to be addressed by NAR.
Well, but Bill, I think the point of that comment was that we don't have a connect. We as individual agents don't have a connection to NAR necessarily. Right. Our connections to the board, and let the board handle it from there. I think that's the point of the comment.
Okay.
You go to the board and they go directly. So I guess follow
Right.
the powers that be.
Right.
Yeah, and somebody just posted that Zillow is a member of Sandy Core and Clause. So if they're a member of that, then they could be pulling coming soons, and that would be an MLS control. They should not allow that.
Well, sounds
Correct.
like they should have a, you know, elite proof ship before they start giving us all these rules we have to abide by. If you know what I'm saying, if they're.
Well, I'm gonna say something that's gonna be controversial. I think there's enough people that don't understand, even the people that are supposed to know, right? I think this is kind of a test platform, and what's going to happen is they're going to start sending out warning letters or making phone calls, and then if there's repeat offenders, there's going to start to be fines, and then there's going to be grievance meetings at the board, and I think it's going to get vetted out very lengthy, and there's going to have to be some kind of process to go through, because there's just so much that this can't cover, or loopholes or leaks, like you said. So I think we're kind of somewhat guinea pigs, honestly.
Yeah.
In trying to figure this out.
All right.
Any more questions? We can address more questions if you want. Now's the time to do it.
I'm just reading some of the comments right now.
A lot of quiet people out there.
Well, everybody's muted. Liz, do you want to open it up to people that want to unmute themselves and ask questions live, or what do you think?
Yeah,
about that?
you guys go ahead and unmute yourself. If you want to ask a question instead of typing it. They can unmute. I don't know, or I could just.
Right. I think they have to click on the top right corner of the 3 dots or something.
Yeah.
And somebody made a comment earlier, I read, that you do not have to be a member of NAR to be a member of the MLS. You could be an MLS member only. Nobody has to join NAR. You are not a realtor if you do not belong to NAR. You're not a realtor, you're a real estate agent. But you don't have to belong to NAR, although most brokerages are going to require you to be a member of NAR and CAR to work for them. Most brokerages will.
And
Can I speak to that for a moment, please? I'll take myself put on the video. It's Lisa Dunn, and I'm the person who put the comments in. And actually, I was in the room at NAR's Board of Directors meeting when they voted on the clerk cooperation. And it was not a, it was a very close vote. It was heavily contested. They put it out to each MLS to implement. So going to NAR isn't where you need to go. Your battles need to be fought at CRMLS because they're the ones that had to come up with a policy and how they are going to get this out there. Now,
Lisa, hold on for a second. Hey, Cyrus, could you mute your screen, please, Cyrus? We're hearing a lot of background noise from you're not muted. Cyrus.
I'll mute him. There we go.
There you go. Go ahead, Lisa.
okay. So, and this is an experiment right now because everybody had to come, every MLS in the country had to come up with how are we going to do it? How are we going to, what are we going to do? How are we going to do this? Kind of like, the whole pandemic thing, you're affected by what your local area is doing. And that's really where we are. I agree. This whole thing is as clear as mud. I couldn't tell you what, why they did what they did, why they're doing what they're doing. But if you want to bring up anything, it probably needs to go to the OCAR MLS committee or to CRMLS directly. And, if you guys, if the group has a concern, I would suggest showing up, whether it's via Zoom or some day when we can all be in person again, to one of the MLS committee meetings, because yes, there is power in numbers and people do need to hear these things so that there can be a change. But it's like anything else. They don't know what they're really doing right now. It's an experiment. So if you have feedback, give it to them. Let them know how you feel about this, what you, perceive as unfair, because I'm looking at it from what I heard a year or so ago at an NAR meeting to what's being implemented today. It's like two different things. We're talking out of both sides of our mouths. We don't want to have coming soons, but then we're having coming soons. So that's it. And I will mute myself.
Thank you so much for that input. I really appreciate it. That was helpful. And she's right. We I think I think people need to get together if this is important enough to everyone, and we, show our numbers. That will be the most impactful thing.
Well,
And I want to be a little bit careful not to speak for Liz, so Liz condone this or not. Again, going back to the Who's Got Pockets site, I think if you guys want to post questions there or reach out to Liz directly via email or text about other questions, or maybe even doing it in a Zoom based on a particular topic, I think Liz would be open to that.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And also just to address, again, the whole premise of this Zoom was people just wanted to know what exactly they could post in the group. So hopefully we've made that clear. If not, of course, reach out to me. But I think we've made that clear, right, guys? I don't need to go over it again.
Yeah.
Right? Unless anybody else has some questions here. All right. I think everybody's pretty much.
Yeah, I think they're starting to click off.
Oh, yeah. Awesome. You're welcome, everybody. I'm getting a lot of thank yous, and you're welcome. It's been a pleasure for sure.
All right. Thanks, Lisa. Thanks, Kai.
Yeah.
All right,
Bye,
guys.
guys. See you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.